You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Welcome to the 42 Cast, your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything. As always, I am your host, Nathan, and we have another great episode lined up for you where we're going to talk about Picard Season 3. Yes, that's right.
AKA Hubba Hubba.
AKA the good one.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the one everybody can agree on.
And everybody is just
I think everybody agrees on 2.
Well, yeah. But I like the first season of Picard, but we'll get there. But yeah, so since she has already spoken up here with her love of the silver foxes that she had on this season, she's my co-host on all of these Star Trek panels, and that is Stephanie. How are you doing, Stephanie?
I still find it so funny that they just everyone, doesn't matter their gender, everyone in TNG just got so much more beautiful with age.
True.
And then there's, of course, Jerry Ryan, who is just always phenomenal, and 7 of 9 is always phenomenal. So, yes. But anyways, that is not how I'm doing.
Well, are you sure?
No,
I think you're having a moment.
That's how they're doing. They're doing great.
I'm just struggling with allergies and, that fun stuff. But otherwise, it's good, I guess. I'm querying again. Yay!
Well,
I say
that's
again,
good.
like I actually tried to do it before. I sent out like a whopping 4 queries one time, and then I got rejected, and I was like, oh, I'm sad. I'm just going to keep writing. But no, I actually got a rejection that was very encouraging and made me want to do more of them, which is weird to get a rejection like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally got a new laptop because, well, I think it's been since before this happened that I was last on an episode, but my cat bit my old one and managed to break it.
What?
And so, yeah, it was a thing. Anyway, I finally got a new one just a couple weeks ago, so I am finally able to start writing again, and I finished up the revision I was working on when he bit it, and now I'm off doing those queries. After many months of missing my imaginary friends and my computer, I have it back.
Well, now you have me worried because my cat's always biting my laptop, but I never thought that anything could happen. Like, I'm just like, oh, whatever.
I didn't either.
Right.
I was working because I work from home, and I had my personal laptop off to the side, just playing random YouTube documentaries and stuff like that as ambient background noise I was only half paying attention to. And all of a sudden, I just hear a chomp crack, and I look over, and the audio is still playing, but the screen is black. The cat's chewing on the corner, and he just managed to bite it at the right angle or something that he broke the whole LCD screen. And yep.
Wow.
Was that covered by warranty or Apple Care or?
No, it was a 2018 MacBook, so it was well out of warranty and all that stuff.
Can cats biting laptops be our 5-minute controversy?
I
Because I'm in.
I don't know who's for it, but
I mean, I would have been all for it if this happened to my work laptop, because my work laptop is a piece of crud and they won't replace it yet. So it would have been great if that was the one that broke, because then they would have replaced it. Instead, I had to buy myself a new one. But I waited a few months, saved up some money, got to pick out one that I actually had all the stuff I wanted, as opposed to, oh, hey, this is an open box item with a really good deal on it. And it's only like a couple of months old. So that was how I got my last one. This time I just designed the specs I wanted and ordered directly from Apple. And I've got my shiny new M2, which is technically a 2022 model, but hey, it's still shiny and brand new to me.
Well,
So
cool.
you have joined the cult of USB-C.
Oh, I mean, my 2018 was also USB-C.
Oh, was
This
it?
one actually has the MagSafe charge again instead of just USB-C.
Everything old is new again.
Pretty much. I mean, I missed the MagSafe charge from my old 2011 one when I got the other one. So I'm kind of glad it's back. But yeah, I hadn't even thought of that feature they phased out and now is back. Anyways.
Well, yeah. That has been your Apple segment of the podcast. Just send your checks to Apple.
Yes, please, Apple, sponsor the 42.
Yeah, Kim Apple really needs your money, y'all.
Even if it's just giving me $50 off of my current payments, that'll be fine.
All right, but yeah, no, it's good to have you back on the show, Stephanie. I'm glad you have a new laptop.
Too. I don't know how I would have been doing this if I, was still computerless, probably awkwardly on my phone or my iPad. And yeah, I'm an Apple fangirl here. So, I mean, I work on a Windows machine all day. That's a piece of crud. So it's nice having something different for personal use.
All righty, well.
Anyways, I'll shut up now and stop talking about computers until we're starting to talk about Star Trek computers.
Yeah.
So you're bi-computational.
Precisely.
All right, so that other voice you've heard, he is a writer, he is a professor, and he is on a lot of tracks with the American Sci-Fi and Fantasy Media, or a lot of panels with the American Sci-Fi and Fantasy Media track at DragonCon, and that is Tom. How are you doing, Tom?
Good. Sweltering in rainy Florida.
How hot is it down there?
Well, it was only in the
It's so hot.
It was only in the low 90s today, and we had a pretty a killer thunderstorm. The sheriff's department sent text messages to people saying, "Thunderstorm coming, severe alert for the next 45 minutes."
But isn't that almost every day down in Florida at certain times of year?
Rain, yes, but not the ones that the sheriff's department sends the things. So.
Okay.
There were some pretty hellacious thunderstorms. My poor dog, when I moved here 3 years ago, she'd never heard a thunderstorm before. So the first one, she was traumatized. My bed hadn't come in yet, so I was on an air mattress with her, and I couldn't stop her from shaking. And now her trick is, if I'm home, if it's only light rain, she'll stay on the couch with me. I think it's stopped now. But if it gets heavy, she'll get on the floor so she can see me. But yeah, we had some pretty close thunder hits. So it's, nothing like when it sounds like you've got THX sound. Oh, that's the weather.
Yeah. No, I just remember last time I was in Florida, it was the last year Wet and Wild was in operation, and I wanted to go because I had so many childhood memories of going to that water park. And we went there, and a storm came through while we were there. And I could tell who the native Floridians were because they weren't ducking under anything. They were just walking around in the park. They didn't care. Everybody else, my wife's terrified. My kids are terrified. Not just this
Let me tell you, when you get hit by lightning, you're going to be ducking away. I speak from experience.
So have your powers manifested yet, Stephanie?
Still no, damn it.
No.
Saying that to elude you.
That's right. Just keep your secret identity secret. All right. Well, it's good to have you back on the show, Tom.
Good to be back. And
finally, he is one of the heads of the American Sci-Fi Classics track at DragonCon, and that is Joe Crow. Yo, Joe.
Ooh.
Hello. How are you guys? Now, I've got a 15-minute instructional video that I'd like to perform about this new mouse that I bought, but instead, I'm doing well, you guys, and Stephanie and Tom, it's good to meet you. Like Tom said,
you've met Stephanie before. It was just long enough ago that I think you've forgotten, but you were on a Star Trek panel with us before.
Oh, no.
Joe.
Well,
okay.
Stephanie,
Well,
I'm sure our panel was excellent.
oh, definitely the best. They're always fantastic when I'm on.
Exactly. No, that's what I've heard. That's what everybody's saying. But how I've been doing in a nutshell is I've been herding kittens to get my Dragon Con American Sci-Fi Classics schedule in shape because the deadline is rapidly approaching. And when I'm not doing that, I'm either eating or sleeping or doing my day job. That's 3 things. Or on weekends, I'm a pro wrestling announcer. It is wonderful. I highly recommend it to everybody.
You're living the dream, Joe.
I really am. It's true.
So what kind of panel? Well, I'm saying that this episode isn't going to come out before Dragon Con. I don't know why I'm asking you what panels you're going to come out with, but you can announce them.
Tell me. I'll tell you what panels we did 3 months ago.
Right.
Dragon Con 2023.
But
all of you should come. I know Tom's going to be there.
And the best thing about them being classics, you don't have problems with any of the actors in SAG-AFTRA because the shows are gone.
I'm not positive whether, because we have some actors that were. That's a whole other.
I don't want to bog us down with that discussion.
Let's just go on to the actual thing. I really don't know, Tom, at this point, because obviously you're in a different boat than me because the shows that y'all cover are currently on.
Yep.
But I think if they were covered by SAG in the past, they are still covered. I really don't know. Way above my pay grade. Or at least that's what I'm telling people because I don't know. And let's keep going.
Really, Joe is the guy that calls the shots in Hollywood. He just doesn't want you guys to know.
I wasn't gonna. Here, just Facebook me. It's all good. I'll make it work.
All right, well, Joe, it's good to have you back on the show.
Of course.
All right, so you know what time it is. It's time for our 5-minute controversy. All right, so our 5-minute controversy is a thing that we do just to loosen up before we talk about the actual topic. And just to give you a little insight into how we feel about something that's going on in the geekosphere. So there's this article that I read recently that was talking about how streaming services are removing various films and TV shows that have only been on the service for a very small amount of time, whether that's months or in few rare cases, a few weeks. There are outliers, shows that were, or movies that were greenlit that were pulled even before they ever got on the streamer. And so the thrust of this article is that streaming services are destroying our trust in them. So I am curious what people think about this because I have my own sort of take on this. And again, high level, very quick. We want to keep these to actually 5 minutes. What do you think about?
Is that because I fussed at y'all the last time I was?
Well, that's been in the back of my head because you are on this one, but no, I'm trying to keep these shorter anyway.
The last time I was here, we got to like minute 27 of our 5-minute controversy.
I think we remember the episode that we were on together now.
Season 2 of our 5-minute controversy. That's right.
With the DVD extras.
But yeah, I'm just kind of curious because I think this is something that probably like affects all of us to some degree or other, and so we all should have an opinion on it. So yeah, but again, high level, we're not going to get into the weeds here. So let's start with you on this one, Tom.
I was going to say, let me start because I was all set to watch this Disney original movie called Crater because I finished the first draft of a spec pilot about a moon base in the future, political, realistic science fiction. And then I couldn't find it. And then I started searching. And then I found out that Disney Plus pulled it after 48 days, not even 7 weeks. It's like, really, dude? Come on. Throw us a freaking bone here. So it's just, I don't know how they're making these decisions. TNT or the Warner Brothers Discovery overlords canceled Snowpiercer after season 4 was complete. So it's out
Right,
there
but that's
for
not a
everyone to see.
streamer, so it's kind of with outside the bounds of what we're discussing.
No, that was on TNT broadcast.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but this article is about streaming. So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's outside the bounds of what we're talking about
But
now.
it's this new endemic where we're gonna greenlight something like the Batgirl movie, finish it, and then Zaslav discovers, ooh, don't like it because I don't like Latinas, but I do like troubled movie stars who have rap sheets longer than their arms. It's just frustrating because here, blink and you'll miss it. And it's a cynical ploy because the double strikes are have been going on. We don't know the status of the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA strike when this episode drops. But
and we probably won't by the time it.
But one of the major contentions is residuals. But when they pull shows like Mysterious Benedict Society, and I know the star/producer, and I have another friend who's a writer-producer, they're not getting any residuals from the show that got pulled from Disney Plus and has disappeared as if it never existed. It's like, come on, really?
It's money off their breakfast table. It's money out of their pockets that they assumed was going to be there, and that's the worst.
And it's not even that much money.
Right.
I mean, depending, obviously the lead of the show probably has a much more, equity share of the show versus the writer producer who's only on for one season. But still, these are people I've known for years, and Iger and company just screwed them out a bunch of money.
I think that is the bottom line of the whole strike thing. They're just not taking care of the people that are making the things that make the money. But I think another side, maybe, of the issue, and you didn't even call on me, so never mind.
It's fine, Joe. You were going to be next anyway.
Oh, okay, well, good. My issue with it is, at first, when streaming became a thing, the conversation was, now you don't need physical media anymore. Now all these things are going to be available at your fingertips forever. And as long as you pay your $9.99 a month or whatever, you can watch everything forever. And then they said, oh, wait, never mind, that we're not doing that. And we still want your money every month, but we're going to not give you those things forever. And that seems a little backwards to me. It seems like they are they're not even over promising anymore, but they certainly are under delivering. So that, okay, I'm done.
Okay. All right, Stephanie.
People trusted them?
Exactly.
Well, the thing is, though, I don't know that any streamers actually ever promised that, but all the fans kept saying that's what was going to happen. So anyway, I just
we were wrong,
right.
Again. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've always been a fan
to be up for more than for at least 2 months. I mean, they've left loser movies in theaters longer than that.
Right, I understand. I'm
Some
sorry
of them were still in
Stephanie.
theaters and should have been on Disney Plus.
Right. All right, Stephanie, please go.
I've always been a fan of having the actual physical media of things that I really like. And I've had some people tease me because, why do you own a Netflix show on Blu-ray? Well, because they released it on Blu-ray, and this way I know I'll always be able to watch it. And I really enjoyed this show. And I have actually been one who has been really irritated at how few streaming shows have come out on any sort of physical release. And I clearly want to support the actual people making stuff. As a creator myself, of course I do. Just as a generally decent human being, I want to support people. But it sure does feel like those CEOs are really trying to encourage us to go out on a ship and, sail the seas if we want to actually be able to watch something whenever we want to watch it, without fear of them either dropping it or without just the service itself imploding on itself and nobody else picking it up. It's always frustrating when you're like, you just started watching a new show and then, hey, here's that Netflix drops these series lists. And you're like, oh, great, I just started watching that show and there's still 6 seasons. I'm not going to get that done in the next 2 weeks. At least not if I'm going to do anything other than watch that show. So yeah, I guess I've kind of always anticipated things might disappear. And so if I really, really like it, and they've released a physical copy of it, even if that ends up in a box in storage or just decorations on a shelf, it's just showing part of who I am by owning it. And clearly this is something I like, and I can watch it as long as there is electricity, not necessarily internet.
Yeah, no, Stephanie and Joe, you've talked about some of the points I was going to bring up, because it's the same way with me. I get sort of tired of the smug people who are just like, you have physical media. I opened up so much space by getting rid of my shelves of DVDs and, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I don't care.
I'm like, give me your shelves.
I like having all my media, and I like having it where I can watch. If the internet's out, like Stephanie said, you need power, but if the internet's out, I can still watch it. And if it gets dropped, I can still watch it. And here's the thing, and here's where I take issue with the article, and especially its headline, where it talks about losing our trust. You were foolish to put your trust in these corporations in the first place, because, this is the argument people would have with me. They'd be like, well, these companies will want to keep all their content up there because, that way, like it's there, it'll entice more people, to get their service. And it's like, but here's what you don't understand. That's not the way companies think. Companies don't think, I'm going to put the maximum amount of content so I can get the maximum amount of people. They're looking at the value per person, right? Because server space costs money. And so to keep a show on there that, maybe you get like 3 more subscribers for this really niche show like Manimal. And
whoa, what?
Maybe Joe Crow subscribes to your streaming service because you have Manimal on. But nobody else has ever heard of it. Nobody else is going to pay for your service just for Manimal. But that costs money for them to store Manimal. So they say it's not worth it for 1 subscription or 3 subscriptions or whatever to store their show on our service. So I'm sure what's happening with a lot of these things is if they don't get the views in the first week or 2 that they expect to hit, they're saying it's not worth it because it's obviously not driving people to our streaming service. Willow, the new Willow series was another example. It was on for like 5 months and they pulled it. And National Treasure, the National Treasure series they did was also on for like 5 months. They pulled it, and so they're looking at things in that very short term, and in a lot of these cases, and saying like, if it's not driving new people, we don't want it on there. We don't want to spend the money for the space. And that's the thing. I knew that was going to be the way things were going to go. That's why I always argued this, is that they're not there to see the maximum number of people. They're there to see the maximum profit per person. That's what they want. And so that's why I'm actually the one thing that's excited me recently is Bob Iger talking about like looking at home video again, because Disney's gone completely into just Disney Plus, like they're except for like the hottest movies that they're releasing right now, they're not releasing physical media for anything. They upgraded the Willow movie to 4K, but it's only on Disney Plus. There was never a 4K disc released for it. Which I would absolutely love. I love that movie. I want the 4K, disc.
They haven't released The Secret Life of David Copperfield at all on physical media. Mm-hmm. You can only buy it digitally.
Right. So I'm hoping that Disney reevaluates. I hope all these companies reevaluate, since they're looking at things and seeing like, oh, well, we're not going to keep all this stuff on streaming, but maybe there is value where people who really want this stuff will actually buy a physical copy. And I'm hoping that that's what happens, is anything that doesn't stay on the streamer gets a physical release, or even more physical releases for things that are on a streamer, even though I know that that's the harder sell. So anyway, that's my soapbox for this one. But guys, yeah, no, this is good. We didn't go as long as we do sometimes with these, and I'm glad we all got to express our opinions on this. But now we're going to go on to talk about Picard season 3. But before we do that, we're going to pause for a promo from another fine podcast.
Here, I had ChatGPT write the new Flopcast promo.
Okay. Narrator, the Flopcast is making waves in the comedy world. Join hosts Jenny and Kevin as they dive into pop culture from retro TV to comic books. With their quirky banter and infectious laughter, the Flopcast will have you laughing out loud and reminiscing. Tune in every week for fun, friendship, and fond memories.
Who the heck is Jenny?
And we're back. And like we mentioned at the top of the show, we are talking about Picard season 3. Now, Joe and Tom, since you were not with us talking about either season 1 or 2, I just, again, very high level, I just want to know, before going into season 3, what were your thoughts of the Picard series, season 1, season 2? Since those were very different, talk about them as season 1 and then season 2. But let's start with you, Joe.
I rewatched the whole thing kind of in a row. I started with season 1, then got to season 2 and was like, this is not great. And so I stopped. But then season 3 happened and I'm like, well, I suppose I might as well go back and watch season 2. And there were parts that were better than I had anticipated. And so there was some stuff. There were things like it was like Star Trek 5. Since we're still on Star Trek, it was like Star Trek 5. Yes, overall not a big fan, but there were parts of it that I liked, and that's what Picard season 2 was for me. My one favorite part was the guy from the bus that from Star Trek 3. Or no, I'm sorry. It was
4.
It was 4.
Whales.
Thank you. The one with the whales.
That's Star Trek.
That guy was wigged out when somebody said something to him, and he's still on the bus, still got the boombox. I loved it. But other than that, and of course the actual internet surprise, Will Wheaton at the end of season 2. Right. Amazing. Because everything is always spoiled for all of us weeks, if not moments in advance. Like, when something drops at 2 a.m. and immediately people hit Twitter and Facebook with spoilers. But nobody knew anything about Will Wheaton being about Wesley coming back, and that was cool. I've rewatched that scene several times. That was cool. So yeah, there was a lot more to like about season 2. Now season 1, I would rather not talk about, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right, Tom.
I liked things about season 1. I liked many, if not most of the new characters. I liked the reintroduction of 7.
Oh, yeah.
Into the Star Trek universe. I thought the Absolute Candor episode and that concept was really cool. Toward the end, I loved catching up with the Rikers. And I thought the girl who played the daughter was amazing. And I was hoping they would bring her back for season 3, but alas, that did not happen. And the fact that Jonathan and Marina, I've always liked this cast, but so many times in the original run, when it became clear that the breakouts were Picard and Data, the lion's share of episodes are about Picard and Data. And then every once in a while, when the light's shone on somebody else, most of the time they would rise to the occasion. So catching up with them and hearing about their family tragedy, which of course plays into season 3, I did not like how it ended. I think that was like, oh, come on. It just went to a place we didn't really need to go. And it's like, oh, dude, really? Oh, yeah, whatever. So now I'm going to ask my dog what she thought of season 2. Daisy, what do you think of season 2? Rough.
Nice.
I really did not like season 2 at all. There were a couple of bright spots, but man, it's just like the Borg are like the Daleks and the Cybermen. When you go to the well too many times, you diminish their impact. And they were not used well. And season 2 was so derivative of a little dash of Star Trek A, a little dash of Star Trek 4. It's like, dude, just tell me a good gripping story. And then all those wonderful new characters from season 1, yeah, we got rid of most of them. It's like, what? Come on. So, the Will Wheaton cameo was a nice, fun surprise. And also, whoever thought of giving him the after show, which started with season 2, that was brilliant because the season 1 person was terrible. Ugh. They were like the Brian Dunkelman of Paramount Plus. But yeah, it's just so. And I have a lot of friends who really did dislike season 2, as in did not finish it, had no intention of rewatching the show. Now, in defense of season 1, Sir Patrick specifically said he would not have returned if they had started with a season 3 TNG type reunion, because he really wanted to do something different with the character, which you can't blame him after all these years wanting to do something different. And so one of the edicts was, we will bring in, TNG actors or characters only if the storyline dictates it. And it's also really curious that the 3 seasons have 3 different showrunners. So I don't necessarily think that's the wisest way to run a TV show, having worked on TV shows. But, you do you, Paramount Plus. So
I think I want to tee up on that a little bit, because that is one of the things when you look at this as a whole, is that each season feels very disjointed from each other, and not even in just the aesthetic, because aesthetically, because the different showrunners, they feel very different in their tone and everything else, but that even like it sometimes seems like they don't even fit together, like as far as like what's happening, because like I had like whiplash going into this season, where they left the last season on a cliffhanger and they're just like, we don't care. Like, we're not going to explain, because I was like, okay, maybe they just jump forward in time and then they'll go back and explain what happened after they went through that hole in space at the end of season 2 or whatever. It's like, no, we're not going to tell you. We're not interested in, having this actually like continue.
I kept expecting Girardi's Borg to play a part in season 3, and not just some little throwaway line from Shaw in like the first or second episode that I actually missed. And I was like, they didn't address them at all. And it was another friend that I was talking to who pointed out, oh no, they did. It's just, it was Shaw making a one-off remark that didn't really say anything other than, oh, they're off guarding that rip in space-time or whatever.
Oh, I don't recall hearing that.
Yeah, apparently there's a one-off little line in like one of the first or second episodes where Shaw does, I think it was Shaw at least, who addresses the Borg that came with Girardi, and why they're not around to help with what I kept expecting them to be, like either them or Janeway to be the thing that popped in to save the day. I think that was my biggest disappointment with season 3, was the complete lack of true mentioning of the Borg from the previous season, because I was thinking it was going to be a real cool thing with having basically 3 different Borg groups going at it. You had the Borg that were the actual enemies, then you had Girardi's Borg, and then you had like the ones that had broken away with Hugh and kind of like play homage to him dying in season season 2? I don't remember.
Well, yeah. So I mean, like,
But-
because to me, it's like because Girardi's Borg didn't even know what was through the hole, so I thought that they should at least explain what was in that hole that they went into in the end. You know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think. Yeah. All right. So we're getting into two different things here. But I mean, I'm just curious, especially since a lot of people didn't like season 2. Season 1's response was mixed. And so I'm just kind of curious though, like, did you guys have problems with that? With the fact that like it didn't even seem to like sync up with what we had been seeing before? Even if you didn't like it, then did you want there to be a payoff to it?
I did not.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would have appreciated more connective tissue between 1, 2, and 3, but at the same time, each season were kind of their own separate animals. And each season kind of sprinkled in a little bit of what we got in season 3. It was like they were giving us a taste, like a preview, like an appetizer. And then season 3, hey, remember these things that we did in season 1 and 2 that were kind of neat with like the original cast? Well, here all of them are.
The main course.
Now we baked this giant cake that we were giving you little nibbles of in season 1 and 2. And that for me it made up for a lot of stuff in season 1 and 2 that I questioned, that I didn't. It seemed disjointed, but it got rejoined in season 3 for me.
Okay. Yeah, Tom, what do you think about that?
You know, I was just reading an article about how angry a lot of the Dallas Stars were when Patrick Duffy came back and they basically undid a whole season. So for me, because my response and other people's responses to season 2 were so negative, I kind of didn't care. It's just like, Next Generation reunion coming up. Yeah, I'm in. I don't care about this stuff before.
Nope.
Bobby's in the shower.
Yeah, I gotta say, for me, I was first disappointed that Elnor didn't come back, because I'm like, okay, we're back in the prime timeline. So Elnor was like my favorite character from that they introduced in that first season. I was hoping for him to be, you know, part of the ensemble in season 3, and he didn't come back. And the other thing is, you know, and this might get into like what some people didn't like about season 1, but one of the things that I liked about season 1 was this idea that the Federation had become corrupt, and that like you had Picard's idealism versus, you know, this Federation that hadn't lived up to its principles. But suddenly we get into season 3 and it's like we completely believe the Fed, like if they hadn't been infiltrated by change, that's the problem. They've been infiltrated by changelings. Otherwise, the Federation is completely trustworthy and we should be going to them with all these problems. And I'm
don't look behind that door. It's fine.
Just got through a whole season about how like these people aren't like the bright, shiny, like moral paragons that, you know, Picard always believed they were. And so I don't know. That to me was like the weirdest thing about this season, was that it was like, oh, like we completely trust Starfleet. After Guinan even tells them, or not Guinan, I'm sorry. After Crusher tells, they were in Guinan's bar, and for some reason Crusher tells them trust no one, and I'm like, she said trust no one. Why do you keep trusting people? First thing he does, he calls Riker, and I'm like, she said trust no one.
Guinan was very clear.
Oh God. So anyway, but yeah, like when we learned it was like changelings, I was like, you don't know if any of these people are actually changelings. Now they didn't go down that route, but I was like, Picard, you're trusting all of them, but you know changelings are involved. So like, what? You know, I don't know. It just seemed like they were too trusting also after everything that they've been through. So
at least they use the shape-shifting, anybody could be a bad guy much better than another streaming show is that shall remain nameless, because I totally hate watching it by now.
Okay. But then the other thing that Stephanie brought up that I want to talk about is we have the Borg again.
I love the Borg, so this isn't a problem to me. And like I did enjoy season 2, but I also basically I've enjoyed each one as its own thing, more as an appreciation for the characters. Season 3 I thoroughly enjoyed. Like, I actually enjoyed it. I'm not trying to justify why I like it. And I think season 2, if you listen to that podcast, a lot of it is me lusting after John Delancey, which I have never in my life done before. I used to think he was kind of weird looking until all of a sudden he came back in Picard, and I'm like, that cannot be the same man, but it is. Holy moly, he aged well. And then he made a surprise appearance in season 3 again, and I'm like, I didn't know I wanted more of you, but okay. Anyways, that was most of my season 2 thing, I think, was just being like that. And then the quick little teaser we had already gotten, I think, of the cast that would be in here, and me going off on, wow, Worf is another one. Michael Dorn had never done anything for me, but now, whoa, hubba.
Input note, Stephanie likes silver foxes.
Would you like chamomile tea?
Gosh.
But I mean, it's not just the silver foxes. The women in the show were top notch too. Just anyone in that show could take me. Okay, I'll stop being the
I've been
borderline making this a not family friendly podcast.
I think that ship may have sailed. That ship may already have left dry dock, but
space dock.
It's however they get you. I mean, if they get you on looks and you want to you find these people attractive.
Got me with. I mean, we had Jerry Ryan and a surprisingly attractive John Delancey. I mean, Jerry Ryan, she was the woman who made me realize I like women. But yeah, having her back. All right, Stephanie, shut up. All right.
All right, so yeah, let's talk about the fact that we're back at the Borg well.
Yawn.
Yeah, all right. So Tom, what I mean, do you feel like after doing the Borg in season 2, like what do you think that was the big reveal end game of season 3?
Here's the thing. Anybody who knows how network television works, who was paying attention, could have figured out that what's behind the door is the Borg Queen.
Well, my wife kept getting upset because that's not good therapy. Troy shouldn't be opening the door. Like, he's supposed to open the sort of walkthrough
Good
thing.
job,
like,
Troy.
That's like,
I thought you were.
Some people have taken issue with her therapeutic skills over the.
Oh no, my daughter is one too. My daughter is like big into psychology and stuff, and she like got mad at like Next Generation episodes where she's like, she is like a horrible therapist.
I love Deanna, but especially now that I've had a therapist, yeah, she's pretty awful. But I mean, like, the first 2 seasons involved the Borg. It would have been kind of weird if they weren't involved in the third
Borg
season.
weren't really part of season. I mean, only in the sense of they had like some disconnected Borg, but they weren't like, it wasn't the Borg. They were former Borg.
Still, they were a plot line of it, though.
Plot thread, I'd say, instead of
they weren't the threat, but they were a part of the main story. And honestly, having this dilapidated, falling apart, dying Borg cube did kind of balance well with the fact that the final villain of the show ended up being the Borg Queen cannibalizing her own collective to just come and wreck the Federation because she's tired of all the shit she's put up with between Janeway and Picard.
Yeah.
My issue is twofold. One, although it was very evident that what was problem with Jack Crusher is that because there were parts of Locutus in Papa's DNA that he inherited, I just thought that what that meant wasn't as interesting because it was basically, he's just like, baby Locutus. That didn't interest me. What they did with that, I just thought, you guys should have thought harder. The other part I didn't buy was the Borg Queen is cannibalizing her own troops. Dude, assimilate more. Wasn't when Jay Leno's was the Doritos pitchman, crunch all you want, we'll make more. That just didn't make any sense because Borg can still assimilate. And this whole thing about the young people their brains haven't tech babble.
Yeah.
Okay, that I had a problem with.
I just thought all of that was
because-
like, oh, please. And the network ships, that was like a total ripoff from Battlestar Galactica. It just felt unimaginative and creative. So episode 9, episode 10, except for it did end well. But before episode 9, I thought it'd been an amazing season. But it's like Borg, just Meatloaf again. Come on.
Yeah. So what I think I figured out, but the show does not make it clear, is that this is the Borg queen that Janeway encountered at the end of Voyager that had the thing put on the thing. So the Borg were falling apart anyway. They're
talking about the virus,
right? And so that's why she had to cannibalize. She didn't have the ability to assimilate more anymore because they were all falling apart as they were. But that's one of my problems with it, though. Her beef should have been with Janeway. This should have been a Janeway season, about Janeway in the future, not Picard, because the emotional resonance was with her conflict with Janeway and Janeway killing the Borg at the end of Voyager. It's not with Picard. Picard defeated them a few times, but never in a big final way like Janeway did. So I felt like that didn't work for me this is the culmination of Picard's story, is him against the Borg queen, when he wasn't even the one that put her in that state. So
I said when we were at the beginning, I was really expecting Admiral Janeway to make an appearance, but apparently the showrunner wanted to do that, but she was, I think the phrase was, she was part of Progeny, and Progeny is her prodigy. Yeah, I realized I was saying the wrong word as I was saying it. That she was part of that. And so I've heard a lot of people theorizing that they decided to cancel that one so that they could free up Janeway to have her come in with
you can only be on one Legacy. Star Trek show. Only one.
Yeah, that probably filmed it. It probably did the voiceover stuff like a year ago.
I know, but the thing is, though, Will Wheaton kind of supports that, because he said something after season 2 about how apparently there were multiple Star Trek shows that wanted to work him in somehow, but Picard was the one that won, I guess, and yet he didn't appear again when we've got a whole thing about his mother and another son. Would have been nice for him to pop in somehow, somewhere.
Yeah,
but
that would have. They all treated Wesley Crusher, as if he was dead, long ago dead. When
all right, I was super weirded out that she named her son after her dead husband.
That's a little weird.
And the best friend of her lover that is the father of the child.
That's not completely unusual and unheard of.
Okay. I mean, usually you name it after an ancestor, not after
All right. Well, I'm glad that
Yeah, my wife and I just kept looking at each other like, this is so weird.
That's a little. I don't know. Unheard of. Okay. Anyway, let's.
All right. Anyway, all right. So, Joe, what do you think about the Borg as the villain for this season?
You guys have covered it.
Okay.
I think the Borg were overused years ago, and I thought, well, okay, maybe I'm interested in the Borg again, and then it turns out I am not.
I am only interested in them by the fact that they put 7 of 9 in the series, that was good enough. We don't need
that. 7 of 9 is badass.
The thing is, I want overall, my opinion is, I am so happy there are new Star Trek things. Just the notion of the overarching notion that we are getting new Star Trek material is amazing. And I didn't think this was ever going to happen. And really, I think about season 3, the cast probably didn't think this was ever going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Picard season 3, their job should not have been to invent new villains, because there's not a season 4, and at the moment there's not a spinoff. So why invest in attempting to come up with a brand new thing when you can just coalesce subplots from your previous 20 years of existence, which is what they did. So there you go.
All right. Let's tee up off of that. Because
That
we
works for me.
had the changelings from DS9, which didn't require them to come up with a new villain, were far more interesting, especially since they had upgraded. And I would have been perfectly happy for this to be a plot about these rogue changelings that weren't about this deal that the Federation had made with the Dominion, and they were going to come and mess stuff up because they were mad. Like, one brings up a legitimate point. Like, Starfleet never actually cured the disease that they gave to the changelings. That was Odo and a few rogue Starfleet officers that helped him, that took care of that. So there's certainly legitimate, like, space to like discuss again, like Starfleet not being like the sort of the rose-colored, like moral paragons and
now,
everything.
If in the future, next year, whenever, if in the future we get like a Deep Space 10 series or something, then all is forgiven.
They actually, the creators of Deep Space Nine actually did a documentary a couple years back that actually where they pitched like what their pilot episode would be for a season 8 of season 8, quote unquote, of Deep Space Nine. I want to see that. I mean, some of the actors have passed on now that would have been in that, but I mean, the core idea of it would still work. And I'm like, oh man, that already like is super engaging and like draws me right in.
What was great about, again, the overarching all episodes, the overarching thing of season 3 was it was also a sequel to Voyager. It was also a sequel to Deep Space Nine. And it was also a sequel to, of course, Next Generation, and had some stuff from original Star Trek in it too, for goodness sake.
President Chekhov.
Absolutely, another surprise that the internet didn't ruin. Oh my gosh!
Oh, I was completely shocked by Ensign Ro.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
my God.
fan freaking tastic.
Yes, it was. I was sobbing at the end of that one too.
Yeah.
And what
The
I
fact
really
that they dug into more in those few minutes with Ensign Ro and Picard than they did during the actual Next Generation series with the two of them. There was more in that, maybe 15-20 minute chunk of that show. And I teared up too. Ensign Ro was one of my, she was one of those subplots that just flew off, literally, maybe. And they just never brought it back again. And now they did. And it was, I'm not going to say super satisfying, but because maybe she didn't have to die, but okay.
Yeah, they redeemed her. They gave her a good redemption and gave Picard closure with her. And I mean, I am glad we ended up with Kira in Deep Space Nine instead of the original proposed plan of having it be Ro. But having her come back in this, actually, there were a lot of them that a lot of the past characters returning that managed to be surprisingly not spoiled. I don't know how they managed to do that. I was completely blown away when Ro appeared. And then I, of course, had to explain to my partner the importance of her character because he's not as Star Trek savvy as the four of us are.
That's funny because I think I did have to remind, like, I was like, remember, she was a Bajoran, she was on Next Generation, it's just kind of like, who?
She did not leave on good terms.
Right.
I work with a giant Star Trek nerd who, bigger than me, by far, who taught a class at the local college about Star Trek. And
that's okay. You could teach a class about Manimal, Joe.
Oh, I will. I've already got the syllabus. And it's in a unicorn folder. But what I was going to say was that when Ro came back, he texted me and said, oh my God, I'm quoting now, OMG, 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 have you seen Picard yet? And I'm like, it's 6 a.m.
I have a friend like that. I wonder if it's the same fella.
It may be. That would be great.
I know there are so many people that either stay up late to watch it as soon as it drops or get up early to watch it as soon as it drops and then want to talk about it. And it's like, no, stop. Everybody can't do that.
Like eating dinner the day it's released.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Posting pictures on Facebook.
But I did watch it that morning, and then I had the same reaction, and I just walked into work, and he was sitting there in his office, and he went, did you see it? Did you see it? I'm like, I saw it. And that's what you want from a weekly nerdy adjacent nerdy geeky, really it doesn't have to be a sci-fi series, any series. That's what you want after you see it. You want to be able to go to your friends and freak out. And almost every episode of Picard season 3 did that for me.
Yeah, I mean, so what did you think about the changelings and the use of them in this? I mean, specifically.
I super dug it because it was another subplot from yet another Star Trek bit of arcana that they had not unearthed before. And I also, first of all, I loved Worf's placement in the changeling thing, since his last appearance was on Deep Space Nine with Odo. I mean, or Odo was there.
Well, technically it was Star Trek Nemesis, but sure, yes, DS9 was his last series.
Nemesis
I don't
exist. Forget about
I don't count Star Trek Nemesis.
Thank you. I don't either.
Good, good.
I'll take franchise killing movies for $300, Alex.
Nope, done. But where was I? Oh gosh,
The changelings you're talking about, unique
thank you,
arcana.
thank you. Yes, thank you, Nathan. I'm going to need you to follow me around at every panel that I do. But the mention of Odo, they didn't. I don't think they said him by name, but Worf goes, "A changeling that I trust." And they didn't say Odo has died like Rene Auberjonois has died. So Odo is out there in Star Trek somewhere, and that's cool.
Picture of him too.
Yeah, that's right.
You saw him,
but because they didn't give him a convoluted off-screen death or anything like that, they said no, Odo's out there somewhere. I kind of teared up then too. I teared up a lot in this season. There was so much and I will get there eventually, but back to the changelings. Excellent villains, never used like this before. And the just them being there and just and gosh, the transformation into Geordi's daughter. That whole that little segment. Everything about the changeling stuff, top notch. That they'd never gone down this road before in all the episodes of the new edition of Star Trek's. They never used the changelings in that way, really, was amazing to me. And no, totally dug it.
All right, Stephanie, what do you think about the revised changelings in this?
I would have definitely been fine if they were the primary villain of this one. I mean, we all know I'm a Borg fangirl, but I mean, I used to play Barbies with plot lines that involved the Borg, so big Barbie Borg. Anyway, lost my train of thought there.
You just used your Barbies to tell whatever stories in whatever universe you wanted to tell.
I mean, I did, and I had a real clever one too, where it was actually the Borg decided to have a human-looking droid that they abandoned on a planet to lure Starfleet in. And
is this the Smurfette plot?
Her job was to seduce Captain Ken and assimilate the whole ship.
This is just like Smurfette and the Smurfs. She was created originally to lure the Smurfs so that Gargamel could eat them. Yes.
Oh.
Yes, she was actually created to do.
Yeah,
Is that why there's only one
like
Smurfette?
Yeah.
11-year-old
because
me playing.
Smurfette's not natural. She was created by Gargamel.
And everybody listening out there, if you had around minute 45 before we started talking about the Smurfs, then you are tonight's winner.
I think
But
actually
anyway.
this is the first time we talked about the Smurfs on this podcast, but maybe not.
I thought that was a clever little story. And then 7 of 9 appeared, and she was the same type. I mean, she was even a blonde with Barbie-like figure. Yeah. I've always loved 7, and not just because Jerry Ryan is a beautiful woman. She was a great character, and Picard created or let the 7 that I always imagined she was actually shine through. But anyways, I would have been fine with the changelings being the main villain, even though I am a big fan of the Borg. The only complaint I really had is I still don't entirely buy why these rogue Borg had a deal with the Borg Queen, or rogue changelings had the deal with the.
I was going to get to that if you hadn't, because that was my problem. Even at the end, I was like, wait, they never explained, because they didn't even seem to be like afraid of the like when the Borg Queen was talking to them in the ship, and we didn't know it was the Borg Queen yet, but like they were like terrified, and I was like, the Borg Queen is sitting by herself in a ship that's falling apart. What can she do to these changelings? And they never explained what their whole deal was, and I would have liked that.
The biggest flaw in this season's storyline is just why exactly did the two of them team up? Because it didn't seem to benefit them like at all. That and them using the fallacy of, your brain is not fully developed or randomly like stops changing at age 25. That was we already kind of had a little about that earlier.
All that it did was make sense for why they were avoiding using, like why the changelings were avoiding using the transporters. But otherwise it was like, but then when they explained it, it was like, well, that's still like not like doesn't make sense. It's just like, it explains why they were doing that. But anyway.
So, I just think they were a little underutilized. And if we had just had that proper establishment of why these two these two big bad enemies of the Federation, formidable, that's the word I was trying to say. Why did they join up? Just because they both hate the Federation when it was a very not mutually beneficial arrangement for all the changelings?
Yeah, whereas even if they were going to use the Borg, some sort of like Borg Dominion alliance, because they can't assimilate changelings, would have been an interesting idea to explore or something, and it just felt like there were so many really interesting things they could have done. But I think part of the problem is that's not what they cared about. They cared about getting all the Next Generation cast together and having and that like sort of like bigger arc plot would have gotten in the way of them just having like all the feels of all these characters getting together.
I think
more than what they wanted.
Really Picard season 3 did, the most benefit it gave was to all the tie-in novel writers, because they can explore this stuff for years.
Decades.
I bet I've been out of the sort of Star Trek novel game for a while just because I have so many books to read, but like I bet there is a whole huge explosion from all the new series that they've, all the new TV series and all the new places for writers to explore. I'm sure there's
like as soon as it happens, I'm picturing like my friend Keith DeCandido and a bunch of other just their ears perking up and just vibrating like, oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, when they skipped over what happened at the end of season 2, I was like, I'm sure there's a book. That's what happened when they entered that rift at the end of season 2.
Durati's cube.
It'll be in there.
But yeah, Tom, what did you think about the new changelings?
I love Vadic because I've been an Amanda Plummer fan, and her late father Christopher would be proud that she carried the family tradition of chewing scenery in Star Trek to new heights.
She was her Pulp Fiction character times 1,000.
Huge. I wasn't. I was lukewarm on the changelings on DS9 just because when the revelation that they were the founders of the Dominion, it's like, really? That's because the Jim'Hadar are so cool and the Vorta are so deceptive and the changelings are so malleable.
They live in buckets.
They live in a big pond.
They have a communal pool called the Great Link. Yeah. I thought that, to echo some of the things that Joe and Stephanie have said, they didn't make more of this Borg changelings alliance. I mean, why are they together? What is the goal? If they meet the goal, would they turn on each other? Which, if anybody saw The Man in the High Castle, which had a great first season and then declined after.
And then the ending was like, huh?
Yeah. But when you have these two, fearsome enemies together, if they start to succeed, they're going to turn on each other because you can't have two master races. So I just thought it was just unimaginative. I thought they did get some good mileage out of the, who could be, like the Tuvok scene. That was great. But I just, and the thing with Geordi's daughter, who's copied, and Commander Hansen versus Commander 7. I just wish that, for me, episodes 1 through 8 were so good, and then 9 was and then 10 was like, okay, you started someplace I didn't want to go, but I guess you're gonna figure out how to get out of this box and end with the flourish. But yeah, I thought Vadic was defeated too easily and too soon because she was so. I mean, just watching her work. I mean, and hopefully, Stephanie, you've seen her in a different mode in the thing with Jeff Bridges, and I'm blanking. Fisher King, thank you. Fisher King. She's so. I mean, she's such as an actor. She's so malleable because we see her play evil. Yes, take a bow, Joe. We see her play evil. We see her play cray cray. But we see her in this wonderful, charming romance. So they got rid of her so soon and so easily. It's like, no, you can't keep a good villain down. This is one of those rare chances where I was for the Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, I'm not dead yet.
It's one of those things where it's like they can get away with whatever they want because these are modified changelings and we don't know what the modifications do. But at least the original changelings could survive in space. So putting her out in space and then watching her ice up and everything, I was like, wait a minute, that's not...
I definitely was expecting her to come back.
Right, because, there was one changeling who turned into, like, a spacefaring creature and could fly around and whatever. So it's like, being in space shouldn't kill a changeling, whatever. But yeah, no... Miss
out on having a guest appearance from Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
He should have been a changeling.
Jeffrey Combs.
I've been saying for the last 2 seasons that what I want to see is like Picard visiting Deep Space Nine and showing what's going on at Deep Space Nine in this time frame. So having the changelings come into the Picard series was, kind of the next best thing. Would I have liked if they had like an actual Deep Space Nine character? Not Worf, who's kind of a shared character, but like one of the actual. Yes, I would have liked to have seen. Julian would have made sense to be in their show. He could have very nicely dovetailed it. O'Brien would have made sense to bring in.
I really think that the tie-in novel writers are all over this.
I just would love to see more Garrick.
Yeah, we're gonna get. There's gonna be there are novels there are fingers burning on keyboards right now, doing all that stuff. But the complete sidebar, the Deep Space Nine episode of Lower Decks was amazing.
Yes.
I'm actually really hoping that Lower Decks, since it's like 20 years before Picard, that we get Shaw back as a character. Even if it's just a one-off return, having him on an episode of Lower Decks.
That would be.
I'm hoping if we ever get Star Trek Legacy, we get a Hollow Shaw as an advisor to Captain Seven.
Please state the nature of the Snide emergency. What do I have to? What do I have to criticize you about?
Shaw was the new character discovery of.
Yeah, we're gonna get to him in a second, but
okay.
I mean, while I'm talking about characters that should have been in this, we already talked about Janeway, but I've been saying the Doctor should have been in one of these seasons of Picard, also since the beginning, and it does disappoint me with all our talk of artificial life and everything that like the Doctor hasn't, made his way into this at all. But anyway, yeah, the changelings, I like them. I think that to me, that could have been the whole series, like, that it could have been the Khan or whatever, like arch nemesis villain that was all about wrecking the Federation because of what they did to the Dominion.
And maybe she
That's
had
a
a
story
Voyager hiding somewhere, and there's where we get Jeffrey Combs again.
And they even could have had that ridiculous, like, oh, we're going to network all the Starfleet ships plot if they really wanted it. I didn't want it. I thought this was obviously with the number of times that weird alien like software has overridden the ship or, has done something, where the ship acts in a way that it shouldn't or whatever. I don't know. I think that linking all your ships together is a bad plan, and not allowing for autonomy.
Great. Yeah.
Wasn't that one of the plot lines of one of the Discovery seasons that, Control was taking over all the ships, and that's why they suddenly got rid and went analog with something.
But everything that was learned in Discovery was scrubbed from Starfleet records. No one knows what happened in Discovery, and everyone kept it hush hush. No one ever talked. That is what we learned at the end of season 2 of Discovery.
Yeah.
Ever. No one ever talked. I'm sorry. I actually like Discovery in general, but I did find that sort of like, wink at the camera. Like no one ever is going to ever talk about Discovery.
This is why you've never heard of this ship before.
Right. No one, Michael Burnham. We're never going to talk about Michael Burnham, and no one will ever know that Spock had an adopted sister.
But the first episode of the first season of Strange New Worlds, Spock says something about his sister to Pike, and I'm like, shut up, dude. Did you not, were you not there in the we covered this, and I wish Pike had done that. We covered this. Anyway, continue.
Spock just can't keep his mouth shut.
Freaking Spock.
Yeah. All right.
I'm loving the new Spock though, but that's the wrong show.
All right, so
not for the reasons you think.
Okay.
And he's not even a silver fox yet.
I know. Like at this point, like Stephanie's just lusting after everyone in the Star Trek universe.
Gosh. I am actually. New Trek has been. It's had some great plots.
Plots,
if you know what I mean.
The articles. She's super
Stephanie's
into the
working
articles.
on new/fiction by the day.
Jeez.
I have a friend who seriously, she and I gush about, we go into our rabid bisexual fangirl modes of just how beautiful everybody in Starfleet is in New Trek. So we would love them all.
You wouldn't know it by listening to her, but Stephanie's had a partner for many years.
Oh yeah, we're together very happily for 12 years.
Everything's fine, Nathan.
He's fine with it because if I'm sitting here lusting after Jerry Ryan while watching Picard, he doesn't have to feel awkward about doing the same thing. And with Strange New Worlds, he says the only reason he's watching is Nurse Chapel. I'm like, you're missing everybody else here? Jeez.
Linda Ortega's personally.
She's
definitely the most fun.
Oh yeah,
of all the characters.
Pike's hair. That's the best.
Oh yeah,
Pike's hair is the new Sheridan hair for.
I call it Pike's peak.
I've got to go print my hair, everyone.
Just
the John Sheridan move.
Let me share something about Strange New Worlds right quick, and then we'll continue.
Okay.
Here's something fun to do on the internet forever from now on because of Strange New Worlds. Here's something I do. Every time anybody says, I sure love Pike on a message board, social media, anywhere, I sure love Pike in Strange New Worlds, every time without fail, I've come right under there and I've posted, me too. I hope nothing bad ever happens to him. Then I just leave. I just walk away. And I come back a couple days later and people were like, what? So anyway, that's my little bit of amusing fun that I just do for myself, y'all. Sometimes you got to have work-life balance. You got to do something for yourself.
You know, it's a good thing that it's a good thing that the uniforms of that era had pockets so you can carry around all his hair mousse. So that between scenes you can,
comb.
Right, and the comb. Yeah.
It's got a little compact mirror.
So can we talk about what are we talking about next?
We are talking about okay. No, let's talk about Shaw now, because I know you want to talk about Shaw. So let's talk about Shaw, because Shaw has actually split people quite a bit. So I'm actually curious if everybody sort of falls. Yeah, because like there are a lot of people who like hate him, like who think he's like just this horrible jerk and everything else. So like, yeah. All right. So Joe, talk about Shaw since you brought him up.
It could have very easily been just the typical hard ass boss from every procedural show or every. He could have been that, but he, as a character, was self-aware. He knew he was that. And then, without needing to, they went so deep in his character that, I mean, there was so much there. Just the scene in the bar with him and Picard. And at the same time, they also dug into the effects that Picard as Locutus had on Starfleet society at the time. And while they touched on it, of course, they touched on it in Deep Space Nine with his...
right, because I did actually find that a little ham-fisted myself, because I was like, really?
I thought it was... Well,
we've been here before.
Yeah. I thought that with Deep Space Nine, it was just a nice jump-off point for Sisko. But in this guy was... It was like Picard's just minding his own business. And of course, he happens to run into somebody who was victimized by him as Locutus many years ago. He should run into those people daily. But this guy held a grudge for a good reason. And Shaw was right about most everything, which is worse when the bad guy, more or less, is correct. And that was Shaw's whole deal. But he knew it. He knew that he's
just from Chicago.
I love that. I love all that. And just, of course, getting to play dramatic stuff, just sitting there with Patrick Stewart and just doing character stuff back and forth, that's unheard of in sci-fi TV, really. But so no, Shaw, 5 stars.
Okay. So yeah, Tom, what do you think of Shaw?
I am a big fan. I don't remember seeing Todd Stashwick in anything before this, and then he showed up on Apple TV Plus. The last thing he told me as well in a small recurring role. I showed the Quint speech to my students, my film appreciation students, every semester. So when I heard the speech, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, that's why they named him Shaw. No, I just thought, plus it was great to have a character who's more by the book, who doesn't love all the BS that Riker and Picard have pulled over the years. And one of my favorite shots is the bunk beds with Picard on bottom and all 6
oh my gosh, I forgot about that
of Jonathan Frakes on top. That was just, brilliant to quote one of my favorite movies, The Emperor's New Groove. But no, I was really bummed that Shaw does not survive the season. I wasn't surprised, but I was still bummed because I really do like the character and the actor quite a bit. Which is why, Hollow Shaw, if we get Legacy, I want Hollow Shaw as an advisor.
They can do a spin-off that happens just before Picard season 3.
We are going to talk about the other big new character, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Stephanie, What do you think of Shaw?
I actually have a mixed opinion on Shaw. Overall, I was sad when he died because he was a character that I was enjoying disliking. My biggest gripe with him was if you haven't caught on by now, I really like 7 of 9. And so my biggest gripe was that he was not somebody who should have been commanding someone with the history he had with the Borg and the history she has with the Borg. That seemed like a really poor decision from a people manager point of view.
Starfleet just does the psych test when you're in the academy, and they don't care about any trauma you've accumulated along the way.
Apparently, that's the case.
not unlike the real U.S. military. They really don't, just you need a body on this ship. You're going. At the same time, though, as much as I hated how dismissive he was of her, and that she had clearly gotten past the phase of using Annika as her name, which I think it was like an episode in Voyager where she was toying with that. I don't remember. But it was really driving me nuts. I was essentially dead naming her constantly.
Yeah.
And I think that was the main thing that got me. His antagonism with her wasn't really the thing, especially because when there was that scene where it was like, am I a changeling? Are you a changeling? Well, Commander Hansen, you are doing a great job, blah, 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 is what I would say if I was a changeling here and stuff like that. I thought that was really, really clever how they did at least build that antagonism with a level of trust between the characters. And
it's positive antagonism.
When he did finally call her 7 as he's like dying, I was just like, why are you doing this to me now? But yeah, he was a character that I enjoyed disliking. I do think I was really just hung up on the fact that he continuously dead named her. The antagonism wasn't necessarily the reason that he would irritate me at picking on my favorite character. Like, one of the reasons why I had issues with Pulaski was that she called Data Data. What's the difference? Well, one's my
I
name,
forgot about that. That's
well, she was mean to our innocent, which is why the fans were like, yeah, she gotta go.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the long run, she really got the short end of the stick with that. I mean, I was glad Crusher came back, but Pulaski deserved better than what she got. Anyways, but like I said, I really hope that Shaw somehow makes a reappearance, even if that is just like he's voicing himself on the lower decks, because that takes place in a time period where he would still be alive and actively serving. And the lower decks has already pulled in plenty of other characters and references, and they tend to do it phenomenally. So I'm not so sure how much I would appreciate a hollow version of him. As fun as it would be to see him in live action again, if Legacy comes to fruition, it would seem too shallow, in my opinion, to do it that way. But yeah, he's a complicated character, and we don't usually have characters that complicated in Star Trek.
And there was what also got me about his being so complicated is when he's on screen, it becomes Shaw season 3, not Picard season 3. He actually stole scenes away from Picard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he was a great addition, filled the role that they gave him fantastically, both as the character was great, the writer for him was great, and the actor for him was great. And I think the fact that he is such a divisive character where a lot of people either love him or hate him, that's just, you don't get characters that developed usually in Star Trek, especially not in their first appearance. And he was pretty well established and developed in his very first appearance, like episode 1. No. Everybody's like, wait, you're telling Picard and Riker no? The audacity, how can you get away with that? And it definitely made a huge impact right away. Now, I just wish he would have called 7-7 more than as he's dying. Oh, and in her performance review, I think. That performance review, though, was a nice touch, especially since that was supposed to have been recorded before all of this happened.
Looked it up. Diana Muldaur is still alive, so they could have had Pulaski in this season of Picard also to really round it out.
That would have been kind of nice to give her just a little nod.
Well, there were only 10 episodes.
Right, no, I know. The one that actually did annoy me, though, because we know that they had the actress recently, was that they kept going Guinan's bar without Guinan. And I was like, why the heck, when you already had her on set, because they did season 2 and season 3 at the same time.
Well, back to back.
Why didn't you just have Whoopi just like, hey, we want to put you in an episode of season 3 too? I don't know.
Even
but,
if
like, that seemed weird.
At the very end when they're playing poker, where she just is like standing behind the bar and she's like looking at her watch or something. Like,
they could have easily put her in any of the scenes, whether in the actual Guinan's bar or have a hollow Guinan in the simulation of the bar or whatever. They could have had Guinan. I felt the lack of Guinan in this season.
I mean, I've heard that apparently Whoopi has been a bit problematic with some statements recently.
Everyone on The View is problematic, but
this was.
Yeah, I don't know if that really mattered because, as you said, they filmed 1, 2, and 3 pretty much with each other
during high COVID. I want to tag on something. The relationship of Shaw and Seven as CO and XO. What's really interesting that we're used to kind of the standard template on a ship is CO is dad and XO is mom. The CO is everybody's friends. The XO is everybody's. He or she is hard on everybody. My sister's, the captain of the first ship my sister was on, they called her Captain Mom. It was an Amsterdam. What's really interesting, though, is I was on my ship long enough that I saw different permutation, 3 different captains, and then multiple XOs. And so sometimes you get that CO and XO that do not click. And it's always really interesting because everybody's like, oh, and that's what I appreciated about this, because that's real. Because, you have people in DC who decide you go here based on what we need, what rank, what experience level we need. And they don't always bear in mind, oh, he had a bad Borg. Well, we all had bad Borg experience. Get over it.
Yeah, come on.
So, but
I thought their dynamic was
shut
really
up about
good.
the Borg, Shaw.
But I really did appreciate the fact that even though he rode her hard, and this is kind of the thing that an abuser would say, I was tough on you to make you better. I'm not defending that, but and face it, we're invested in Seven because she's in the primary cast and he's a guest star.
Well, I mean, she also was giving as good as she was getting whenever she had the opportunity. So it was a mutually resentful relationship that was still had an element of trust. The two of them did trust each other, just they hated each other. And I did appreciate having that dynamic. And I think that was probably a much better dynamic than Rafi suddenly being Captain Seven's first officer, which is another one that I think is a serious conflict of interest, and they should not be positioned that way.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We'll get to the ending in a little bit here, but I just wanted to put in my 2 cents on Shaw. So first of all, from the very beginning, as soon as he started saying, no, we're not going to divert course because we are supposed to be doing this, I was like, I am sold on this guy, because that's exactly the thing. This crap that like all these people get away with in all these shows, that shouldn't work. They are like supremely lucky. They are playing like the improbable odds and always coming out on top. What Shaw is doing is absolutely right. I am not doing anything reckless to needlessly put my crew in danger. We are going to do the path that we were told to do. We're going to be on the time that we were told to be there, and all of that. Which yeah, because we're invested in these kids. We're invested in Picard and Riker, and so we want to generally like believe in and agree with what they're doing. But what Shaw is doing is what is normally right for the health and safety of everyone, and so it's like, it's good to see that as the dynamic of him pushing back. And that was the reason why, even though I think that the scenes that he did were incredibly well directed and were incredibly well performed, why I didn't like that they tried to boil it down to, oh, he just hates Picard because he was Locutus. Like, that was the thing that's why I didn't like that, because I was like, no, like he's perfectly fair and fine just on his own, having the position of,
oh yeah,
I've heard about you, you're super reckless, there's no reason why you should have gotten away with it, and I'm not going to do this reckless crap that you do. That was perfect on its own.
That turbulent scene where he's like, oh, the time you did this and the time you did that, or how about the time you did this, or
want to crash another
rattling
Galaxy
them.
class starship, boys?
Yeah, and you do wonder about that. Cumulatively, like, how many people have died on ships under Picard, also, like, and again, like, he's done all this great stuff, also saved the Federation, numerous times, but, there's also been like a huge toll in human life, that goes along with that. So I don't disagree with Shaw, and in the real quote unquote world, I get we're talking about spaceships 400 years in the future, but in the real world, Shaw would be the right person. That's the person you would want to follow, is the one who cares about the health and safety of the crew, so and puts that as paramount above everything else. So
I saw a meme that was claiming that the Enterprise is not actually the flagship of the Federation. It's just where they stick all the most chaotically lawful folks and hope for the best.
Yeah, although we've talked about the fact that the perception of Kirk is not accurate to his actual like performance in the original series. Like,
right, it's only
people
accurate to
nowadays think Pine
performance.
Kirk was what Kirk was like in the original series, and he was a much more thoughtful character than that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Pine Kirk.
Yeah.
Sounds like a resort.
Yeah.
Come to Pine Court.
All right, so yeah, before I guess we talk about, I was going to talk about the returning characters first, but we got off on Shaw, so we'll talk about Jack, because I think that's who Tom wants to talk about. So yeah, Tom, what do you want to mention about Jack, as our other new character in this series?
I thought
35 minutes or less.
I thought Ed Spaliers did a terrific job as Jack. If I was imagining, obviously I was shipping Jean-Luc and Bev throughout the 7 years of the show, including the season he was off the ship. Hey, I'm leaving my kid, Starfleet Medical, but take care of my kid for me. Bye. How does that work? But once he shows up with the British accent, I'm like, seriously?
It's genetic.
And I love that Riker, that in episode 2 is like, are we not going to talk about this?
That was
kind of a running gag.
Yeah, and then Picard goes, about what? Amazing.
I mean, it was almost like a mini version of the whole Jean-Luc, there's been something I've been meaning to tell you, that went from season 1 through season 7 until we get the answer in Attached. But no, and I've always, secrets revealed, I've had the hots for Gates McFadden, and I love Marina too, but Gates, something about Gates, maybe it's the dancer in her, she's been one of my faves. I was angry. I was stationed overseas, but I was angry when she was not on season 2. It's like, by the time I got back stateside, we got her back. But I was really interested in how they were going to deal with the backstory of I don't think the math quite works out, but it's like, hey, that's the least of our problems. But I really liked when they have the confrontation between the two, between mom and dad, and it didn't play out exactly like we thought it would, which I was like, good, because you've got all this animus, all this angst, all this drama that's been bubbling up for decades, literally, and we get to see it resolved. I
really appreciated too how she was like, I can protect my son, I cannot protect Jean-Luc Picard's son. And
I like that.
Yeah, that was a very poignant point, I think, in why she didn't reached out on her own, but she did give Jack the information to do so. Unfortunately, he finally encountered his dad at a very inopportune time and asked him.
Oh gosh, that
What
was a
a
good
question.
reveal. That was a really
brilliant but devastating flashback. What's interesting about this season is they stole from so many Star Trek things, including Star Trek 2, which if you're going to steal from the best. Although I thought it was handled more deftly with this because we get longer period of time and consequences. Because David Marcus, they ended up killing off anyway. And whereas this, they leave Jack alive, possibly for, a spinoff show.
I just assumed Jack was going to die. I assumed he was going to be David Marcus all over again. And I was pleasantly surprised that they didn't go that route.
As was I.
Yeah.
I was assuming that
visit from our old friend.
I was expecting that Jean-Luc wasn't going to make it out. And when
Me
they introduced the D, I was like, okay, maybe Jean-Luc will survive, but the ship won't. Or vice versa, the ship will survive and he won't. I was shocked that both of them survived the final episode long enough for him to retire again and the D to go back into the museum.
Yeah, I that is one of the things with this show that I felt like somebody should have died. Like, I was just like, yeah, I was like, Picard was the one I thought was the obvious choice because, Patrick Stewart's been very vocal. I'm not going to do this ever again. Like this is it, and so having him, because when you have something where you're doing so much and you're saving the universe, like there should be a cost to that. Like it shouldn't be the mega happy ending at the end. Like to me, it felt like, and so, I went through like, oh, Picard dies, Jack dies, Riker dies. Like I thought one of those three, because the end, like it was like, oh, like that's why they're setting up that Riker feels so disconnected and everything. Maybe Riker's going to die. I thought somebody's going to die in this. And I did feel like a little kind of when it was like, oh, we're going to do the mega happy ending. It's like, okay, we can do a mega happy ending. But like, I still felt like there should have been some cost, somebody should have died.
I think, Nathan, you're 110% wrong if that were mathematically. But
okay, that's fine.
I think since this was the swan song, and they were not planning on the fact that they did this, were able to get this together at all, was such a surprise. They did the reverse of Star Wars and said, hey, remember these cool guys? Let's do something cool with them, and then set them back on the shelf, instead of how Star Wars did was, hey, remember these cool guys? Now they're dead.
Well, I didn't say kill them all off. I didn't say kill them all.
You said kill one of the main characters off, and that is what Star Wars.
Well, no, I mean, but because they're getting older and everything. Like, I don't believe in like the Top Gun sequel.
We're all
where
getting
they call
older.
like a 60-something-year-old guy and he can fly maneuvers that like kids can't do, and I'm like,
maybe
the G-force has just killed him.
I want to do that when I'm in my 60s.
When they're trying to adventure like kids. One of them probably should die just because they can't handle it anymore. It's just like, I don't know. But yeah, I did find that. I felt like the show was setting that up. It had that sort of elegiac sort of tone to it. And so I was kind of surprised that they didn't pay that off. They killed some
great supporting characters from the TNG run.
I know they killed Ro. I know, but honestly,
Shelby.
Oh, really? Really? Shelby, we all wanted
Shelby.
to die?
Yeah, actually, that's true.
Everyone hated Shelby.
Shelby's
Nathan,
awesome.
Oh, no.
Nathan Bloodthirsty Laws over here.
Oh, my God. She was barely in this anyway. She was
Nathan,
in like 5 minutes.
I'm going to side with you in the fact that I was like, Shelby, that name sounds familiar, but I can't remember who she is.
Oh no, I remember her.
Just be a name. It must just be a name that they've used. And
but she was that awful person that came in the Borg two-parter, and it was just like, oh God, get rid of her.
Awful person who told the truth. Riker.
Yeah. But
yeah. I mean, it was cool that they brought her back and acknowledged the character, but yeah.
Yeah, I honestly would rather have had Ro survive, since Michelle Forbes could conceivably be in some other Star, like her age wise, she might, they could possibly have used her in another thing down the line.
I'm surprised she came back for this after she turned down Deep Space Nine as a series.
Well, there's been a lot of water under that bridge. I mean, her career is in a completely different place now, so who knows? Because who knows why she chose not to, and who knows why she chose to. Like, and also doing like a guest spot is way different than doing like a series commitment too. So but yeah, God, I did love the mileage.
Had experience on Galactica, so.
What?
Crap! I can't believe how long that already was. Galactica.
What about Galactica?
She was on there.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I she's had experience doing that since.
He was a great king.
But yeah, we kind of wandered down this field. So as far as Jack goes, I did feel like because of the way the writing was and how they wanted you to be uncertain about what was going on with him for so long, it didn't serve him best, I think, as a character. But my favorite thing probably is the reveal, because like Picard keeps going like, why wouldn't you look me up? Why wouldn't you try to connect? What? And then you find out, oh my God, he did. And what Picard was saying was like, I don't need a kid. Like, that's not a thing that would in any way like
Starfleet is the only family.
Right, exactly. That's Starfleet's the only family that I ever needed.
And of course, they're going to say that in front of a whole bunch of cadets.
Right. It's like, oh
Worst
no,
bio dad ever.
Right. So yeah.
Then Picard admitted, that was really crap-assed of me to do that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he didn't know that was his son sitting there, but like,
no idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that father-son stuff was the stuff I thought worked best. I also found it kind of weird that the setup was he was, I don't know, like 20 something and had like always lived with his mom, and I was like, again, it just writers, you could have set this character out better.
He went to school in England, and that's where he picked up the accent.
He picked up the accents.
My biggest beef with Jack, and I'm glad you guys reminded me. My biggest beef with Jack was the constant angst. I grew up alone. Your mother was there.
Yeah.
Beverly Crusher was there the whole time. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't hate the character. I didn't feel he was particularly strong either, my opinion. But also, like I say, the writing I felt like didn't help him out because he had to do like weird things constantly or be like kind of off kilter because he didn't know what was happening to him. So I actually thought when he started having telepathic flashes and started like making use of it, that was the most interesting time for him personally, and being able to like, like get people to like move in certain ways and whatever and fight through them and stuff like that. I thought like that was kind of like,
but I do appreciate that even though him being the actual son of Picard was right there in front of us the whole time, and we assumed that's what was going to happen. And then it finally did. The paths they led us down to make us think that that wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was okay with that. He grew on me.
Yeah,
he did.
So yeah, we got our next gen cast for the most part. I mean, people can quibble, no Pulaski, no Wesley, but we got most of we got the core next gen cast back.
Mm-hmm.
No O'Brien.
We even saw Tasha Yar.
Oh, that's right.
Briefly, yeah. But they recreated the deck of the next and that I think it was on the Ready Room when Will Wheaton went to the recreated deck.
The bridge?
Maybe. Anywho, but then seeing the cast walk onto that old deck, oh my gosh. Everything about Star Trek to me was just boiled down into that one thing. And I thought, I don't want to hear anyone ever complain about fan service ever again.
I especially enjoyed the fact that you could actually see them finally.
Yes.
That was probably my biggest gripe overall. Was
they finally changed the light bulbs.
Dark.
Yeah. They changed the bulbs. But the thing with me was I kept coming back to this as I was watching. That it was that I'm a fan. I like being serviced. I was all in for all of this stuff.
Nathan, it wasn't me who said that.
No, I know.
Well,
Are we getting a mature rating?
You're
in our,
sharing your
explicit thing?
I think whatever like hormones or whatever is going on over your place is starting to spread through the podcast, Stephanie.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, it was awesome to see the bridge again of the Enterprise D. I actually had my sort of own experience sort of like that, where I went to a place where they had recreated the original Enterprise sets, like more than the bridge, like there's a museum in New York. In Ticonderoga, New York, where
check that out one of these days.
Yeah, where they made the Star Trek New Voyages fan show, which of course they can't do anymore because of CBS's, Paramount's, new rules or whatever. So they turned it into a museum, which they had to have officially licensed the right to do that, to operate it that way. And so, I've been in the transporter room, I've been on the bridge, I've been in sick bay, I've been in all the rooms. It was engineering. It was so exciting.
I understand that some weekends Shatner and then even Anson Mount will go there and do events, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it's I really recommend that if anyone's ever passing in through upstate New York, that you go to Ticonderoga and you check that out, because it is an experience. And if you are a Trek fan, if you're like me and you grew up watching original series, Trek, then like it is meaningful. Like
if you're not a Trek fan, though, don't go. You're not gonna know what's going on. You're gonna, is this in space? What? Where am I? So don't go if you don't like Star Trek.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't go if you don't like Star Trek.
If you're a fan of Pinekirk, you can go to an Apple store and get the same experience.
Just a little less lens flare, actually, but.
So characters you put or everybody pick one character you were particularly happy to see again, and talk about why you were particularly happy to see them again. Stephanie, let's start with you. Just one character that you were particularly happy to see again.
Data lore.
Okay.
Because they are technically one now.
Right.
And I think that was when we did our season 1 thing, I was like, yay, we finally got closure for Data, because as we said, Nemesis doesn't exist.
Nope.
Well, no, the trauma of the ending of Nemesis I carried with me until I got to the end of season 1 of Picard, and that ending where he gets to talk to Data at the end, and then I was able to leave that burden behind me, and I felt like the catharsis,
and after that, Nathan, you wanted more people to die at the end of season 3. As
long as it's not Data, I'm fine.
No, yeah, okay, all right, understood.
But I really enjoyed the way that he also basically finally defeated Lore by being like, okay, brother, take who I am, learn who I am, and hey, look, now we are one.
No, I was saying it to Beth. I was like, Lore's taking everything of Data, so Lore will become Data.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was such a good way of handling that.
And I really liked the character that came out of it, where it was like Data finally, he finally made his way out of his eternal adolescence, basically. And giving him the new soon model body, appeased Brett Spiner to come back if he didn't have to do all the makeup, and actually be Data again.
Right.
But no, I thought that was really beautiful how we finally have a little bit of an edgier Data who, and I don't mean edgy in like that cool edgy way that we're trying to be, just more that he was more willing to take a risk now and understand why that's something that is good sometimes. He managed to keep his integrity. Basically, they both lost all the worst parts of each other, and only merged into the better parts of Data and the better parts of Lore to create our new. I mean, they're still just going with Data, but
And thankfully, B4 didn't have any part of that, and we didn't have to worry about
right.
that.
And they even acknowledged before.
I know they acknowledged him, but we didn't need to deal with him.
Yeah, he wasn't actually a full personality.
Right.
Whatever. He was just a memory file. And I think that really gave him a beautiful sense of growth. For both of the characters that he portrayed, because I always thought Lore was a fun antagonist, and he complemented Data's innocence. Just it was like a pure balance between the two of them. So you put them together finally, especially in the fact that they took the better qualities of each other, and we got the Data that makes Deanna ask, "Wait, I'm sensing something from you. Are you having fun?" As they're going on a death mission. Yeah, that was my favorite return because we had already had our catharsis with season 1 Data, and now they keep giving us better and better resolutions for Data.
Yeah, although I did feel like the writers didn't know or had forgotten that like he had the emotion chip for like this, through the movies and everything.
It didn't always work properly, and that was one of the big issues was that it didn't work. But Lore's did work. He was just prone to evil.
Yeah,
Lore was an a-hole.
Yeah.
Joe, who did you particularly like seeing again?
The whole time y'all have been talking up to this point about your favorite character, I could not decide between Riker and Worf. I've decided I'm going with Riker.
Okay.
I mean, the two of them played off of each other fantastically.
That's what I was about to say. The scene where Riker says, "I'm going with you." Worf says, "Let's make it a threesome." And Riker goes, "Do you even listen to yourself?" And there's did I go with Riker just then? Did I say Riker?
Yeah, you said Riker.
Okay, thank you. Let's go with Riker because the quote machine of Riker, and this was a side of Riker that they hinted at in his previous appearances, but he is a comic genius in this season. The timing, the writing, the quotes, when he says to his beloved Troy at the end of season 3, when he goes, "How's Data? Still bad?" Oh my God. And when there are so many, and when what was her name? Picard's friend from the previous season. Rafi, thank you. Rafi, yes. When after Rafi did the Klingon style badass fight scene, Riker goes, "You're scary." Brilliant. Everything Riker did, and all the stuff, the stuff with Troy, just and the bro stuff with him and Picard, just the dudes hanging out stuff. Never expected to see that again, amped up to 1,000 like they did. So that's mine.
Okay.
Did anybody else think for a little while in the beginning that Riker was going to end up being one of the changelings?
Yes, because they cut from Picard listening to a message that said "trust no one" to him calling Riker, and I was like, that's like a narrative choice.
I thought
connecting those two things, And so I kept going like somehow Riker's been replaced with before I knew it was changelings, like there's a pod person or something, but like you shouldn't be trusting Riker. And it took a while before I was like, okay, they're not going that way.
But then when we realized it really was him, I did love that scene where he calls Deanna Imzadi and she just goes, "Oh, I should have taught you another word."
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, that was the other thing too, when they were both caught by the changelings, I was like, oh, one of them's going to be replaced and sent back. And they didn't go that route either. Like I thought either he or Troy would be. So, yeah. Tom, who did you particularly like seeing again?
Well, I already talked about my affinity for Gates McFadden and Crusher, so let's move on. I will probably go with Worf. I love Sirtis and Deanna. Didn't get enough screen time for me.
Mm.
But Worf, on the other hand, pairing him with Michelle Hurd's Rafi, that was just a lot of fun. I mean, just,
Mhm.
Well, Zen Worf now too, which is
Yeah.
like a completely new like character.
Oh,
I
Which-
also really appreciated that they showed him as a true pacifist. He will fight. He just preferred not to.
which it kind of reminded me of, because Rafi's seen, she was Eleanor's mentor
Mm.
Mhm.
in season 1, so she's seen this offshoot of Romulans with ultimate candor, and now she gets to meet a pacifist Klingon who will kick your butt if he has to, but he preferred not
Mhm.
to. But
And then he'll offer you chamomile tea.
So, and I just thought that calling back in my doctoral thesis, which is available on Amazon, Hailing Frequencies Open. Occasionally the digital version is on sale. But even though the actors didn't really like the idea of pairing Troy and Worf, psychologically, there's a reason I talk about in my book why it does make good sense, because of the writers playing with gender roles.
Mhm.
But calling that back, and Worf still kind of like, expressing his unresolved feelings toward Deanna, and meanwhile Riker and Troy are married and have had some kids. It's like, dude, really?
I actually took that more of him being proud of how he had changed and wanting to express that to her, because that was an important part of their relationship, and he was just excited to see her again and be like, look, I've grown. I've finally done some of those things that we talked about and stuff like that.
But like Will
I took that
said,
more of,
do you ever listen to yourself, dude?
yeah, no, that was, I
that-
love Worf, and then him snoring at the end.
I just love like the whole thing. Like you could almost feel like Worf's about to say something like, "Oh, if only I had a child myself." And then like somewhere in the universe, Alexander's like, "Again? You forgot about me again?"
Yep. I kept expecting something like that too. And to be honest, I really wasn't digging Rafi's storyline this season
Mm.
until Worf showed up, and
Yep.
then I was like all about it.
As her contact, that was brilliant pairing.
Yeah, her and Worf worked well together.
Secret Agent Worf could be its own spin. Like Michael Dorn wants his own spin-off, and I really feel like Secret Agent Worf could be its own spin-off.
Secret Agent Worf.
Yeah. So
I mean, Michael Dorn has basically created that character,
mhm.
and
has
I'm
the record
pretty
for the most appearances as that character.
yeah,
on TV.
that's what I was going to say. He's had the most appearances. It's been over 3 different series now, and yeah, Worf has been a rather interesting character just over his entire course.
Mhm.
I still
Not
miss.
always treated very well by the writers, but
I still miss Loxana's Troy's Mr. Wolf.
I don't miss anything about Loxana Troy, but we're gonna move
Oh.
on from that.
Her last appearances on both TNG and Deep Space Nine, I thought.
No, her last couple on DS9 I did actually like, but like
I really
for the
enjoyed
most
her
part,
with Odo.
I just found her so annoying as a
Well,
character.
now
The
when
early
she did
Auntie Name in Space episodes don't work, but when they start taking the character and the actor more seriously, I
Mhm.
thought Major did some amazing work.
Mm.
this was just this was a minor point on one of the final episodes when of Picard season 3, when the Enterprise computer voice, and it's Majel Barrett.
Mhm.
And one of the cast, I think it was Riker, he said, "I miss hearing that voice."
Mhm.
That was amazing. That
Mhm.
was
I
all you
started
needed.
crying as soon as I heard her voice speak.
I
See?
know. I do like her as the computer voice.
I think honestly, it could be personal stuff that I've gone through in the last couple of years. I don't know, or that my family has gone through, but maybe I honestly don't know what it is. But this Picard season 3, I have just waterfalls.
mm.
constant, and not the
Yep.
kind that TLC tells you not to chase, but just it has so much emotional, so many emotional triggers, and I mean that in a good way.
Mhm.
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I mean, so Stephanie and Tom took my top two choices. So probably my true choice after that would be that Q appears in the post-credit scene. And I was super excited to see him again. And I had clued into that, if you recall, Stephanie, on the season 2, that John Delancey had said in an interview that he was filming scenes for seasons 2 and 3. And I was like, he's going to be in season 3 unless he's confused. Because I was like, the actors don't necessarily know, like where things are going to fit in. And so maybe he's
I
confused.
remember us talking about that actually now. And I was completely blown away when he
right, because
appeared.
it's the last second, like, oh, we get Q at the end, and that was so happy. And then I learned.
Tim looked at me like, didn't he die? I'm like, it's Q. He was just.
Well, the dialogue actually.
If I say the word I told him.
Yeah, Jack says, "Didn't you die?" And he's like, "Why are you thinking linearly?" And so, like, that's fine. But yeah, and of course, I thought, well, if they're doing that scene, there must be a spin-off already being worked on, only to discover, no, there isn't, in fact, a spin-off being worked on.
They just really want to do it.
They just really want to. And it's like,
I know.
And we all know how the studios feel about what fans want.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, like, the cast really wants it too. And
right. Well, I was just going to say, though, because Q's part in this is so small that, like, I'll just give a shout out to Geordi. LeVar Burton was very happy that Creeper Geordi has finally been put to bed, and he is.
I want to know who the mom is. Did he finally have a relationship with Leah Brahms?
Well, I think they said, didn't they say in First Contact that he was married to Leah Brahms now? I thought that was in one of the movies they had said he's married to Leah.
I think that was. I think they've. I feel like I read something with LeVar Burton, and he said, "No, we're not going anywhere near Leah Brahms anymore."
Well, that's what he said with Picard, that like they didn't mention who the mom was, but I could swear that in one of the movies they said he had married her.
I'm remembering that too, because I remember being really creeped out.
I think it was First Contact where they just offhand mentioned that he's married to Leah now.
And I know we talked about it, so
I've decided to disregard that bit of dialogue.
According to the Memory Alpha alternate timeline, he's married to Leah Brahms.
Right, no, definitely, and yes, in all good things, they definitely do say that, but I think in one of the movies they do also.
The time stream has been affected 78 times since then.
But no, like Creeper Geordi, that was a sad thing for LeVar Burton, that he was always like sort of like the guy pining for women and doing somewhat stalkery and creepy things with them.
Whole different topic.
So anyway, so yes, he got to get past that. He's a father. He's got at least 2 kids, and things are going well, more or less.
He's a Commodore.
Right. The rank they've forgotten about since the original series and just decided to remember it like now. Yeah.
To be fair, the U.S. Navy brought back the rank Commodore briefly and then got rid of it in favor of Rear Admiral lower half. Because Commodore traditionally is the person who's in charge of a squadron of ships. But that's not a rank, that's a position. So
right. But in the original series, it was a rank in Starfleet. So
Commodore Mendez.
Yeah. But anyway,
aren't they using it again in Strange New Worlds too? Which I mean would make sense since it's before the original series.
Probably.
Yeah. I don't recall, but they could be.
I don't either.
Yeah. So all right. So yeah, wrapping things up. We have the ending. We have the Enterprise G, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the Enterprise G, and we have Seven as captain. And
we don't know what happened to the E, do we? Except that Worf says it wasn't his fault.
Right.
It
might be in a book.
It's not Worf's fault. That's a lot.
Well, I love the fact that they let Deanna fly the ship and not destroy it. And so them all pointing at Worf with the E, that was kind of funny too.
All right. I'm going to take a brief aside and talk about that thing from Generations. There is this hilarious YouTube video where the guy takes that apart. Like he's basically making fun of the whole movie. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like with love, but it's like he's making fun of the whole movie. And he's like, if only we had like a skilled pilot on the bridge. And he cuts to all these scenes in the series where they talk about how Riker is one of like the greatest pilots like Starfleet has ever had. And it's like, if only we had like, you know, but no, we have Deanna, and they cut to like interviews with her where she's like, I get to fly the ship this time. Like the kids even flown the ship, and I never got to fly the ship. And it's just like, anyway, sorry. All right, but yes, ending of the show. So, what did you think about the ending of the show? You know, encompassing both, you know, how we're sort of seem to be setting up a new series that we don't actually know is happening, and also sort of the resolution for our main cast. So, Tom, how do you feel about the resolution of the show? And also, do you want Star Trek Legacies? Do you think that's a good idea for them to do that?
I do want Star Trek Legacy. As I said before, I didn't like where episode 10 started, but they adequately got themselves out of it. But yeah, I wish overall that the ending had been, if they hadn't started in such with episode 9 being the seriously, dude, with so many weird writery things, I thought that 10 could have stuck the landing better, but they did an okay, you know, they did an okay job. I really would be interested in seeing Legacy. Just, you know, Terry Matalas, the showrunner, some people don't realize he was a PA on Enterprise. So he goes way back, and he's also been friends with Jerry Ryan for quite some time.
And that explains a lot.
Yeah, it does.
So
he's always doing good with the writers.
The seedy Star Wars wannabe planet Talos was named after him by an Enterprise writer back in the day. So nice. He had a vested interest in not screwing this up. I don't think he screwed it up. I think there were some things he could have done better. But overall, you know, it's the one season of Picard that I think universally people say this is what we wanted out of it. And something that classic Star Wars fans never got.
Well, they got it, but it was in book form. But yeah, so Joe, what did you think about the series ending, and do you want Star Trek Legacy?
You can find me at okay, we're not there yet. I just, whatever new Star Trek they want to give me, I'm in for. Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, more of this timeline of, or more of this era of Picard. You know, all of it overall, even and Prodigy too, all of it overall has been so good overall, with you know, peaks and valleys, but I want more of all of it. And I look forward to having, I mean, just, it's new Star Trek things every week, practically. So yeah, if they do another series, if Matalas just does another Star Trek thing, even if it's not Star Trek Legacy, I'm down for that. It doesn't have to be Legacy for me, but I do feel like, yeah. I feel like since you've brought these characters back and done so much with them, I feel like it would be a shame now to just put them back on the shelf. I feel like now let's let these guys do animation voices as themselves. Let's do more cameos, more spin-offs, more of everything. That's all I want. All I want is more of everything.
They can sign over their likenesses and AI could play them forever and ever.
No, everything but that.
Bad, Nathan, bad.
Why?
Just wind them up and watch them go. All right, so Stephanie. Stephanie, what do you think about the ending, and do you want Star Trek Legacy?
Captain 7. Oh, that made me so happy. I mean, I'm pretty sure that after I knew you had watched the episode, I just sent to you, like, in all caps, oh my God, Captain 7. I was so happy about that.
Mhm.
And actually, going back to my new laptop, so I've always had this thing where I have named all of my devices after Starfleet ships. And
I'm on the
since I
Defiant
moved out
right
of,
now.
see, I refuse to use the Defiant because the Defiant always, whatever device I named Defiant, died inexplicably.
But I bet it
So
was
the
a glorious death.
The Defiant is a band name for me. And what I think is kind of funny is my old MacBook, the one that Lupin decided to chew on, I had named the Shenzhou, and I just realized like the other day that, oh my God, that ship was destroyed by an outside force, just like my laptop was. And then my new one, I decided to name the Enterprise G. My iPad is Voyager. When I get a new phone, that one is totally becoming the Titan, and I am just going to have all 7 of 9 ships here. Never mind the fact that the Titan and the Enterprise G are technically the same. But yeah, so I am very happy to have 7 as a captain, and I want her as a main star of Legacy. Gives Jerry Ryan her own Star Trek show. She deserves it after what they did with her and Chakotay.
We have no idea what to do with this character. He can be dating seven. Actually, I found out why that happened. We can talk offline about it, but I finally have an answer as to what happened.
Yeah, for goodness sake.
Oh, I'm so tempted to ask you for more details, but Neelix is staring at me like, get off the computer and come feed me. I have a cat named Neelix, just so you guys know. Not so much named for the affinity of the character, but for the fact that they look alike. Anyways, yes, I enjoyed the ending. Like I said, I was really surprised that both Picard and the Enterprise D survived the ending. Thought for sure one of them was gonna be offed in some way. The Q surprise was definitely a surprise.
Hubba hubba.
Yeah, so it's a bit of hubba hubba too. But clearly I'm more excited about 7 of 9 here than anything, because seriously, that character has always deserved so much better than what she got in Voyager. So I was so thrilled when she was announced to be on Picard, and for her to finally officially don a Starfleet uniform just was really great. And the fact that she is not like your example of a pious, good gal, whatever Starfleet member. She was one of those Rangers, and she's got that kind of troubled history, and yet they are still allowing her to develop into captain material. Yeah, I don't know. I could probably go on for like an hour about my excitement of 7 of 9's character development and why I really, really do want to have legacies. Is that I did Jack grew on me. I think now that all the Borg stuff is situated, he'd be a little bit more level-headed character. And I think it could be an interesting dynamic to see him and 7 growing on the Enterprise now. And there was that heartwarming scene between the two of them where they're at the Fleet Museum and she points out Voyager, and you could tell that he was totally just like, he's a ship guy. Of course he knows what that ship is, but he also probably knew the sentimentality to her, so he let her go off on her little kind of like, that was my home, and I just was like the whole time. But yeah, I think they're a good dynamic. Rafi has grown on me a lot over the last 3 seasons. I still don't think she's really a good choice for a second officer with her girlfriend, ex-girlfriend. I'm not sure what their status is right now, but don't think that's a good choice to have her as your first officer, regardless when you're the captain. But if it would also give us an opportunity to at least confirm that Elnor did not die, because the ship he was supposed to be on the Excelsior, and that was one of the ships that was destroyed in this whole Borg thing. So I'm really hoping Elnor wasn't on there at the time. It would be great to get a little bit of closure on him, just because he wasn't there, and the ship was supposedly, well, his ship was actually killed or destroyed. It's just a matter of whether or not he was on it. So all that said, yes, I want Legacy, or at least something post Picard, because they definitely set it up for something. And now learning that Terry Metalis was on the crew all the way back to Enterprise, he definitely has the experience with Star Trek, and overall seemed to run the show the way that fans liked. And I would hope that Paramount sees that, or CBS, whoever it is that actually controls it. I don't know.
Oh, well,
it's all
yeah,
confusing to me.
yeah. To them, it's just about the download. So, and then it did well, as far as I understand, about like showing up on rankings and what. Because I know that Jerry Ryan and Michelle Hurd were very big about like everybody like watch this as much because they want Legacy also.
Yeah,
and so
they
it's like
definitely
everybody
do.
watch it, and they were posting about how it showed up on like the top Paramount Plus shows.
And come on, release it all on Blu-ray so that I can put it next to my next gen.
It's coming out soon.
It's coming.
Okay.
They're doing a box set of the entire series. As they're doing 3 releases. They're doing season 3. They're doing a box set of all of Picard, and they're doing the Picard collection, which is all 7 seasons of TNG, all 4 TNG movies, and all 3 seasons of Picard with extras. Not worth the $200 plus list price they want to double dip.
Yeah,
I already have all the other ones, but it is one of my favorite franchises of Star Trek, so I'll probably end up with just the
100%
Picard.
right.
But I can easily foresee myself being like, you know what? I already bought The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings on Blu-ray, and then the collector's edition of them together. So
and then
may
the
as well
UHD
do the
4K
same with
discs.
this.
Right. Yeah, I just bought all the movies on 4K, so I'm not gonna buy the movies again. But that's fine. But yeah, for as far as the ending, as far as yes, since everybody did survive, the poker ending was a good ending. I feel like for the crew, like I said, I just would have liked Guinan to be at the bar to say one of, just to have Guinan there, just to have her say something, have her connect with everybody too. I think that would have added a little something. I did find. No, sorry.
How long did each episode need to be for them to put every single thing in that we wanted? And I'm cool with what. Well, we have to be cool with what we have because they're not going back and adding stuff.
Right.
But I agree with what you're saying. But at the same time, Guinan was not in the original cast.
They
Guinan
really
was not,
dragged out that poker scene, though. They could have easily had her just standing in the background.
Oh,
I don't know.
A lot of the poker scene was improv. They basically just put the camera.
Nice.
Well, that is nice. But yeah, as far as everything else, I did feel like the whole thing of like Jack gets through Starfleet Academy in like a year to be like, okay, so your dad is Jean-Luc Picard, so you don't have to go through the full academy like everybody else. That's nice. I just feel like that was a weird choice. They could have easily just skipped forward 4 years. I also felt weird that it's like, okay, like, Picard sends his girlfriend off to some planet in the first episode of the season. And like, we don't even address at the end, like, did he break up with her? Like, are they still together? Like, did he hook up back with Beverly again? Like, who knows what's going on there?
Is she a changeling?
Yeah, so I don't know. I felt like that was sort of strange. And like you, Stephanie, I would have much preferred if Rafi was not on the ship, because I do feel like that's not right to have 2 people in a relationship as captain and first officer. She could have gone off with Worf.
If that was Starfleet's biggest problem, then
yeah. But I'm just saying I would have liked her to go off with Worf, because she could still have a relationship with Seven of some kind. But
you want her on Secret?
Yes. Yeah. Buddy secret agent comedy show with Worf and Rafi. Yep. It writes itself. But yes, and of course, having Q at the end, I adore Q. Q episodes are my favorite episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. So more Q. Yes, and give us Star Trek Legacy. At least,
Yeah.
I mean, just for Q. Now, the one thing I don't want, though, because I've heard a lot of people commenting online, they want everybody's kid on like the ship together. Like they want Alexander to come in, and they want like, and I'm like, no, like don't
Star
do
Trek
it like
the
that.
next generation,
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
like, you know, like have Riker's kid get on the ship. You know, the girl. You know, like have
Kestra.
yeah, Kestra on the ship and all that. And I'm like, we don't need that.
named after Deanna's dead kid's sister. If you remember,
Gross.
It's so contrived to try to put everybody's kid on the ship together. Yeah. Don't do that.
Put them in group therapy with Deanna.
Star Trek counseling. It's a series just about counseling sessions in Star Trek.
Deanna Troy Riker, counselor at large.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I'm curious about what this Star Trek 2.0 they've been talking about is, you know, the heads of you know, at Paramount.
Nobody's really talking about any of that.
Yeah.
I can.
We're not gonna know. We're not gonna know.
With the abrupt cancellation of Prodigy, basically they were working toward a 52 weeks of new Star Trek content, and that paradigm is gone because they canceled Prodigy, and I have an inside source that confirms that, yeah, they're not trying to do that anymore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because it does look like they're trying to like sort of like push a lot of the stuff they were making. It's like, you know, Discovery's ending, you know, Picard's ended, and it's kind of like, what is the new, you know, what is the new? Well, we won't know because the writers are on strike, so we don't know what's going to.
The Starfleet Academy writers' room was assembled well before the strike, so Tawny Newsom's on the writing staff.
Okay. Nice. But what I'm saying is, if they're calling it Star Trek 2.0, it's more than just Starfleet Academy. There's other shows they're thinking of making that haven't even gotten to that point yet.
I hadn't heard any of that yet. I mean,
so anyway,
okay,
we're gonna. All right, we've been talking
about the strikes.
We've been talking about Picard for a while now, so we're gonna say our goodbyes and let people know where they can find us. So, Joe, why don't you say goodbye and let people know where they can find you?
I don't remember. It's here's what you do. Go to the basement of Dragon Con in the Marriott if you physically want to see me, or go to Gadsden, Alabama at Spartan Pro Wrestling in the Gadsden Mall. But if you want to see me online, go to facebook.com/group/American Sci-Fi Classics, and that is where all of my devious plans are coming to light, and all of my schemes shall be made real in the next few weeks. And then we're going to do live panels on the interwebs, much like this one, after Dragon Con probably. But thank you for having me. It was good to see Tom and Stephanie again. Apparently it was good to see you again, but it was good. I just did not know that I'd seen you before, but thank you.
Likewise.
Good stuff.
Thank you for being on, Joe, and thank you for being long suffering as we go through our very long panels. For those of you at home, he's shaking his head at me right now.
I have no more words.
Okay. All right, Tom, say goodbyes and let people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, which I'm hardly ever on, Instagram, and Threads at Blurred PhD, BLERD PhD.
And thank you for being on the show this week, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
And finally, Stephanie, thank you for being on all these Star Trek panels with me. You know, since our claim to fame is our long conversations about Star Trek, while my wife just looked on with a glazed expression on her face.
I would come over to either work on cosplay with her or babysit your kid, and then 5 hours have passed and we're still talking about like
Star Trek or Babylon 5.
Yeah, that 1 30-second clip. Let's do a full analysis of it.
All right, it's Stephanie. Say your goodbyes and let people know where they can find you.
Know where you can find me. Social media right now is like so up in the air. Like, what is even existing anymore? But if you want to find me, you'll either find me as AK Stevens. That's my pen name. If you find me on Twitter, I think it's AK Stevens Author. What do I have it as? Let me look at what my screen name is because I can't remember. Oh no, it is just A_K_Stevens. On Threads, I'm AK Stevens, I believe, without the underscores. That would be the same on Instagram, but Instagram is hard to manage when you're a writer. So usually that's just updated during National Novel Writers Month. And Facebook also, AK Stevens. Or if you find me as Elcrea/Lady Elcrea, depending on if it's Instagram or not, because one person got it before me and it's a name I made up when I was 15 years old.
Boo.
Yeah. Oh gosh, my throat is telling me to just shut up and say goodbye. So Elcrea is where you might find me with just random postings.
Lots of things
other
told me
stuff.
that an hour and a half ago, but never mind. Continue.
So that's where you can find me. I think I'm coughing now because I ran out of water like a half hour ago. So until next time, see ya.
I would say tough crowd, but it's coming from the panel. But Stephanie, Joe, and Tom, thank you so much.
Coming
for being
from
on the show.
inside the panel.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
You're welcome.
That's a wrap on Picard. What did you think of the episode? What do you think about New Trek in general? We'd like to know that. We'd like to know your ideas for guests, for panel topics, for people that I should interview next. Let us know all of it. And you can do that in a bunch of different ways. One way is to email us at everything@42cast.com. Another way is to go to our website, 42cast.com. You can also go to our Facebook, facebook.com/42cast. Or you can go to X, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Threads at 42cast and let us know your thoughts in any of those places. You can also leave us reviews on Apple Podcasts or on your podcast platform of choice if it allows reviews. And with Apple Podcasts especially, we would greatly appreciate it because the more reviews we get, the higher we show up in searches. So if you have an Apple account, if you haven't reviewed the show yet, please do so because we would really appreciate it. You can help out the show by donating to the ESO Network Patreon. That's a way to help all the shows on the network. And you can find that by going to patreon.com/ESO Network. You can review the different tiers and the different perks that you get for those tiers. You can get early episodes of some shows, exclusive episodes of some shows, and a whole exclusive ESO Network podcast that's only available to patrons. And so if you have the funds to contribute, and if those sound interesting to you, we would greatly appreciate it if you would contribute. You can find me on 2 other podcasts. One is Time Streams, where my friend Juliet and I are going through all of Doctor Who from the beginning. Time Streams, as of the time of this recording, is currently on hiatus. My plan is to get it out of that status and going forth before the end of calendar year 2024. So just to sort of hold my feet to the fire there, that is what I am saying. So even though this episode is going to come out before that, hopefully you will see Time Streams coming out soon. So if that sounds interesting to you, check that out. I also have another podcast, Legendary Forces, which is still on hiatus and will still be on hiatus through the end of 2024. It's Juliet and I again, but joined by Joe, Corey, and Ashley, and we're talking about Star Wars from the beginning. That's all the novels, comics, TV shows, movies, everything Star Wars. So if that sounds interesting to you also, you can check out the episodes we've already dropped. That's Legendary Forces, and I do plan on getting that out of hiatus in 2025. In TV news, Beth and I have started watching The Acolyte. So far, we're only an episode in, so we haven't gotten too far into it. I don't understand what everyone's problem with it is. Stylistically, it's very interesting. It had the best fight scene that I think that I've ever seen in Star Wars for like hand-to-hand combat kind of thing, or one-on-one kind of combat. I don't think I've ever seen anything that good before. So that was really exciting. So I don't know. I'm intrigued by the concept so far. Maybe it gets really bad as the episodes continue, but so far I'm kind of stoked for it, and I am really curious what all the stuff was. Of course, if I get to the end of the series and if I still don't understand it, I'll start Googling it. But for now, and I've kept myself fairly, I've tried to keep myself from getting a lot of spoilers and stuff like that. All that I know is that there was a lot of rage directed against the show, and I don't know why. So we'll see where that all goes. So that's it for this week. Join us back next week when Yahya Abdul Mateen will not be joining us. And until then, this is Nathan signing off. You have been listening to the 42 Cast, copyright 2023. Got a question for the ultimate answer? Contact us at everything@42cast.com. Theme music is Sharper Swords by Brandon Ellis. Check out more of his work at www.cityfires.com. The 42 Cast is a proud member of the ESO Network.
So Stephanie can go hubba hubba again.
That's right.
Yeah.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.